I heard when your wife told her sister that she was saving money by keeping the old lady busy with screaming brats so I wouldn't bore everyone with my 50-year-old stories. I heard every single word, Marcus. And the worst part wasn't even the cruelty. The worst part was realizing you were standing 10 feet away and you never once defended me. There was a long silence on the phone, the kind that sucks all the air out of a room even when you're 2 hours apart. I could hear the wedding band warming up in the background, a violin scraping out a nervous note, children shrieking somewhere, Tiffany sobbing like the world was ending. Finally, Marcus whispered, "Mom, I'm so sorry." Sorry doesn't feed 150 people, son. Sorry doesn't give me back the months I spent planning your happiness while you planned my humiliation. But do you know what sorry does do? It tells me I raised a man who still has a conscience buried somewhere under all that convenience. I pressed end call before he could answer. Loretta was staring at me with tears in her eyes and pride in her smile. "Charlotte Fitzgerald, you just became my hero all over again." I laughed, but it came out shaky. 72 years old and my hands were trembling like I was 16 and standing up to my father for the first time. The rest of the weekend at the spa blurred into the sweetest revenge I never knew I needed. We had lavender wraps, champagne at noon, dinners where nobody asked me to pass the salt or watch anybody's kid. I slept 10 hours straight both nights, something I hadn't done since 1983. On Sunday morning, I sat on the balcony watching the mist rise off the lake and realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was free. I pulled into my driveway in Richmond, Virginia at 6:47 p.m. on Sunday. The porch light was on. Marcus's black SUV sat crooked across 2 spaces like he'd parked in a panic. He was waiting on the top step, elbows on his knees, still wearing the tuxedo shirt from the day before, bow tie undone and hanging like a noose he couldn't quite finish. The second I opened the car door, he stood up. "Mom." One word cracked right down the middle. I closed the door gently, took my time getting my small suitcase out of the back seat. I was wearing a new linen dress, the color of sunrise, bought at the spa boutique with the money I'd saved for their damn ice sculpture. Marcus looked like he hadn't slept in 2 days. Good. "He wasn't sure you'd come home tonight," he said. "This is my house, Marcus James Fitzgerald. I come home when I decide to come home." He flinched at the use of his full name, something I hadn't done since he was 14 and totaled my Buick. I walked past him up the steps. He followed like a dog that knows it's about to get the newspaper across the snout. Inside, the house smelled faintly of the lemon polish I use every Saturday, whether it needs it or not. Everything was exactly as I left it, except there was a manila folder on the kitchen table and a bakery box from Sugar Shack with a note that read, "We are so sorry. Love the new Mr. and Mrs. Fitzgerald." I ignored both. Marcus hovered in the doorway. Can I get you something? Sweet tea? Wine?" "I'm perfectly capable of getting my own drink, thank you. I've been doing it since 1977 when your father was deployed and you were in diapers." He swallowed hard. "The wedding, it was a disaster, Mom. We ended up ordering 60 pizzas. The kids ran wild. One of Tiffany's cousins fell in the fountain. People left early. A lot of people." I poured myself tea from the pitcher I'd made Friday morning, added exactly 2 teaspoons of sugar, the way I've done for 50 years, and took a slow sip. I reckon that's what happens when you plan a wedding around using your mother as unpaid staff instead of honoring her as family. He dropped into a chair like his legs gave out. "I didn't know she talked about you like that. I swear to God, Mom. I thought we were just delegating." Delegating. I tasted the word. That's a fancy word for dumping 15 children on a 72-year-old woman without asking if her back could take it, if her heart could take it, if her pride could take it. Tears started down his face. My boy, 45 years old, crying in my kitchen. "I was wrong," he whispered. "I was so wrong, I don't even know how to start making it right." I set my glass down carefully. "You start by telling me the truth. All of it. From the day Tiffany decided I was the help." He did. It took an hour and 3 glasses of tea. He told me how Tiffany had laughed about keeping Grandma busy from almost the beginning, how she had convinced him it was efficient, how he had let himself believe it because he hated conflict and loved her and thought I'd never find out. When he finished, the kitchen was dark except for the light over the stove. I said quietly, "Do you know what hurt the most, Marcus? It wasn't the words. I've been called worse. It was realizing my own son valued peace in his marriage more than respect for his mother." He put his head in his hands and sobbed like he was 6 and had lost his dog.
"For 7 days, my phone was a war zone. Tiffany called 43 times and left 29 voicemails that went from furious to pleading to fake sweet to furious again. I listened to exactly none of them. Marcus came every evening after work. I let him in. I fed him supper, because I'm still Southern. But I didn't speak unless spoken to directly, and even then, only in short sentences. On the 8th night, he brought a letter, handwritten on thick cream paper. It was from Tiffany. I read it at the table while he watched, terrified. "Charlotte, there are no words big enough for how sorry I am. I was cruel and selfish, and I hurt the most important person in Marcus's life. I don't expect forgiveness. I am stepping completely out of your way. I have moved into the guest room until you tell me what you need from me. If you never want to see me again, I will understand. I only ask one thing. Please don't punish Marcus for my ugliness. He loves you more than anyone in this world. Tiffany." I folded the letter and slid it back across the table. "Pretty words," I said. Marcus closed his eyes. Loretta came over the next day with a bottle of bourbon and no patience for nonsense. "She's pregnant," I told her before she even sat down. Loretta froze halfway into the chair. "Come again?" "Found out the day after the wedding. That's why the tears came so easy on the phone. Hormones and guilt make quite the cocktail." Loretta poured us both 2 fingers. "Well, damn." My exact words. "What are you going to do, Charlotte?" I stared at the amber liquid. "I have no idea." They told me together, standing in my living room like teenagers who dented the car. 12 weeks along, due in April. They'd already had the first ultrasound. Tiffany held out the grainy black and white picture with shaking hands. I took it. A tiny bean with a fluttering heartbeat. Something ancient and fierce roared awake inside my chest. I looked at Tiffany, really looked at her, for the first time since the patio conversation. Her eyes were red, her face blotchy, her usual polish completely gone. I looked at Marcus, who hadn't taken his eyes off me since they walked in. Then I did the last thing either of them expected. I opened my arms. Tiffany fell into them like a child and sobbed into my shoulder, great, ugly sobs that shook us both. Marcus wrapped his arms around both of us and cried too. I stood there holding my son and the woman who'd wanted me deeper than I thought possible, and I felt the first crack in the wall I'd built around my heart. Forgiveness is not amnesia. We had rules: therapy, couples, and individual. Tiffany paid for it herself out of her own savings account, no arguments. Tiffany wrote me a letter every single week, for a year. No excuses. She told me what she was learning, what scared her, what she was grateful for.
Some weeks, they were 2 lines. Some weeks, they were 5 pages. I still have every one in a box in my closet. She asked before she ever accepted childcare from me again. Asked. Out loud. In front of Marcus. I got to spoil that baby rotten, but only when I felt like it, not when it was convenient for them. We started over, slowly, from scratch. The first time Tiffany called me Mom again was 6 months later, when she was 8 months pregnant and her feet were so swollen she couldn't tie her shoes. I was helping her put on compression socks in my living room. "Mom," she whispered, tears rolling sideways into her hair, "I don't deserve you." "No," I said, patting her calf, "but this little girl in here does, and that's enough for now." She was born on a Tuesday in April, screaming her head off with a shock of dark hair exactly like her daddy's. I was in the delivery room because Tiffany asked me to be, not because I was expected. When the nurse placed Eleanor Rose Fitzgerald in my arms for the first time, something shifted permanently in my soul. She weighed 6 pounds, 11 ounces, and she smelled like heaven and new beginnings. Tiffany watched us from the bed, exhausted and radiant. "She named her after you," she said softly. "Eleanor was your middle name." I hadn't told her that. Marcus must have. I looked down at this tiny person who had no idea about patios or overheard conversations or canceled buffets. All she knew was warmth and milk and love. I kissed her forehead. "Hello, little Ellie. Your grandma's here, and I'm not going anywhere unless I damn well please." Epilogue. 2 years later. It's a Saturday in June, and my backyard is full of people. There are 15 children running wild, same as there would have been at the wedding that never quite happened the way they planned. Ellie is 2 today, chasing Bubbles in a pink tutu, shouting "Gamma! Gamma!" every time she wants to be picked up. I'm sitting in my favorite Adirondack chair with a glass of iced tea, watching. Tiffany walks over, 9 months pregnant with baby number 2, and lowers herself carefully beside me. "Need anything, Mom?" she asks. I smile at her, the real smile that reaches all the way to my eyes now. I'm perfect, sweetheart. Marcus brings me a plate. Barbecue this time, not pizza, because we hired professionals like normal people. He kisses the top of my head. "Love you, Mom." "I love you more," I answer. Same as I've said since he was 5. Loretta raises her glass from across the yard in a silent toast. I raise mine back. 74 looks pretty good on me if I do say so myself. I learned something the hard way. Love isn't a blank check for people to write whatever they want on it. Sometimes you have to close the account, walk away, and let them figure out what real money feels like. But every once in a while, if they're willing to do the work, you open a new account. With better terms, higher interest, and a very clear signature line that says, "Respect required. Dignity non-negotiable." Because a woman can be a grandmother, a mother, a friend, a legend, but never, ever again, the help.